We're less than a week from the NFL draft, and we have our Origins Chaos tournament going on. It's all rookies. It's basically like a dynasty rookie draft, except you're playing for real money with real drafts with real people. It's super flex or QBs included, so you could start 4, draft 6. This gives a big boost to players like Jalen Milroe, Jaxson Dart. I know Shedeur Sanders has been falling, but that high upside is something that you want to get a couple of shares for. We're going to go through an entire draft. I'm going to walk you through it, give you the play-by-play, so hopefully you can hop in, get into your own Origins tournament, and have a chance to win some real cash right here on the Fast Draft channel. And like I said, folks, this is a real draft. So if you're going to be messing around doing dynasty mocks or whatnot the week before the draft, that's fine. That's fine. But if you want to have some real stakes in line, hop in to FastDraft app. You can use code FAST. You can use code Jagger, and we can give you a $50 deposit match ASAP Rocky. Tournament started here. We got Ashton Jeanty off the board. I'm not surprised. A lot of people like Jeanty even above the quarterbacks. I'm going to be honest, if I were in your position, if I'm doing multiple, I want Cam Ward and Jeanty as much as possible. And I'm even surprised to see Amari and Hampton going ahead of Cam Ward here. I get it, guys. If this was pure dynasty, I would maybe consider Hampton or Jeanty firmly over Cam Ward, but I don't expect Cam Ward to sit on the bench for this season. So he's someone that I'm going to be targeting earlier often. And no matter where my draft position is, and especially in a tournament like this, where you can draft from the 110, have third round reversal, you're not going to get Cam Ward. So your draft position is naturally going to give you that, it's naturally going to give you that diversity that you're looking for. Then we have TreVeyon Henderson and Tet McMillan off the board. I think Henderson's closer to the RB2 than a lot of people think. To be honest, I like his receiving upside. If he goes to a place like the Broncos, he's immediately fitting into like a Reggie Bush type role. And that receiving upside is going to be a huge benefit to fantasy football. So I'm not saying that I think that Jeanty sucks or is overrated or anything. I just think that TreVeyon Henderson is underrated. And as we see Shedeur Sanders go off the board at the 108. I would have taken over Matthew Golden. Then we got Judkins, Luther Burton, and Caleb Johnson here. And what's unique about this is that we do have that third round reversal. So getting Burton and Caleb Johnson gives you a share of receiver and running back, because I feel like running back is pretty top heavy. And then same for receiver, honestly. So like, realistically, you can get good receivers in this draft early, and then you should be hammering running back. Where I think there could have been a little bit of a higher advantage is if they would have went Jaxson Dart there on the tail end. That way you have an opportunity to get a bit of that quarterback upside as well. A lot of steam that Jaxson Dart or even Jalen Milroe can go at 9 to the Saints. I know the Steelers clearly need a quarterback. I know no one wants Aaron Rodgers right now, and they're kind of playing chicken. So I'm curious to see where he goes there. Emeka Egbuka falls to the second round here. I think that's appropriate. He's going in between the tight ends, Tyler Warren, Colston, Loveland. Tight ends are going to be pretty buff, specifically because of the draft class and not just because it's tight end premium of the format. So even if you think, well, I don't want a tight end or whatever, realistically, these tight ends are going to be starters earlier and often. And I think the trend that tight ends need a lot of time to develop is going to be bucked along with, let's say, wide receivers, where they used to be 3-year breakouts for wide receivers, and that's done. I think these NFL teams are really, really starting to adjust. Cam Skattebo is going ahead of Jalen Noel. I am a big believer in Jalen Noel, and I would take him ahead of Cam Skattebo, especially ahead of Dylan Sampson. There's a couple of players I would take there ahead of Dylan Sampson. I like Devin Neal still on the board. It's pretty crazy to me because I think there's a lot of talent there. Jalen Milroe, iPoppy here gets it. There's a lot of upside for him there by getting Jalen Milroe in the second round there. We got the third round reversal. Elic Ayomanor, that's way too late for the third round. I think that's a huge value here. A lot of big rumors that I think he's closer to going to the end of the first or the top of the second than he is falling to day 3 or anything like that. And I think he's closer to a top 5 wide receiver than a lot of us want to admit. Jayden Higgins, I'm a known Jayden Higgins hater. I'm really concerned about things like his reception perception value. I know he had a really good athletic score, but the tape isn't great. And a lot of times we see with these receivers that they look really good in workouts, but when they get on the field, they can't really separate. They can't run routes. They don't have nuance. And that's something that the NFL will kind of put him in a bucket as a role player. And then for fantasy, yeah, this player's getting getting starter minutes or whatever, but it's not really turning into production. Then we have Bhayshul, Tuten, and RJ Harvey. These two running backs really lit up the combine, and they're really popular. I like Tuten better than Harvey. Harvey is this James Cook type, and I say that because I like James Cook a lot, but I think James Cook is more of a product of usage and the system that he is than he is just going to be a good talent in any place that he's in. Let's say like Hampton would come in, or even Kaleb Johnson. I would think that James Cook would give up a significant amount of his touches. And I think the fact that the Bills are willing to not pay him is indicative of that lack of value that they see for him. And that's why I put RJ Harvey in here. I think he's good. I think he's explosive. He's got a much better athletic score than even James Cook had, but I don't see him a great runner in between the tackles. And if you look at Chase Brown and again, James Cook, I could definitely see where teams may be apprehensive of getting him on the field. If he can get that receiving work used right away, that could be a fantasy boom. So he's someone I probably won't have as much as others for the price, but I definitely could see where a lot of people value him. And we're moving back over the board. Damien Martinez finally getting off the board. LeQuint Allen a little early. Harold Fannin Jr. Rest in peace to those shares. I am going to take him in this tournament when I can, just because of the upside, but I'm going to be taking Mason Taylor ahead of him. Mason Taylor, I continue to say on this pod, on this channel, everywhere that he is underrated. Then we have Kyle Williams go off the board. I don't think Origins tournament's going to end, but I don't think this price in, let's say, dynasty rookie drafts or even redraft comparatively to these other rookies is going to be this low going forward. The price of the brick's going to go up. People really like his explosiveness. The Titans have already met with him, and he already has a rapport with Cam Ward. So I think there's less smoke than fire. Now we're getting into the tail end here. Elijah Arroyo. That's another good tight end that a lot of people like. Ty Felton. A boy here that's taking him off the board. That's someone else I think that's going to be day 2 that we could see as a riser and no one else is talking about. Jarquez Hunter going off the board here. I know a lot of the film bros like Hunter more than I do. Just whether you like him in outside zone or you like his Raz, he's not someone I'm actively targeting. When you're here in the 5th round and it's rookies only, sure, but definitely like Tyler Shook, Brashard Smith, even like Marcus Yarns, I'd probably take ahead of him. Even Jayden Blue, I would take ahead of Jarquez Hunter, because it's really interesting seeing someone like Jayden Blue, who is in such a strong running back class, choose to come out when he could have stayed at a good program or transferred and maybe get higher draft stock later. So I'm curious to see what the NFL thinks about him. Now we're getting to these real dart throws. Xavier Restrepo, I think that's better than a dart throw. He had a terrible Raz, terrible pro day. Really saw that draft stock plummet there, but he's definitely someone that I'm going to still draft because he's just so cheap. And I see his usage as a slot that can earn targets. Terrance Ferguson, I'm hearing rumors, guys, he's not going to fall out of the 2nd round. So, like Harold Fannin, someone that I was the biggest fan of prior to the NFL Combine, I'm taking Ferguson ahead of him. I'm taking Ferguson significantly ahead of him, in fact. So he's someone to keep your eye out for. He had a very productive year at Oregon, very good. Raz, he's a good blocker, good after the catch. There's a lot of things here that you will like and that you want for your NFL roster. And moreover, your fantasy roster. So especially when we like to see these mismatches and we want to get the positional advantage of a high end tight end, so you're not starting the Dalton Schultzes and whatnot. I think Terrance Ferguson is one of the better bets. Now we're getting to the real dart throws. Will Howard. When you get towards the 6th round of this draft, yeah, maybe you want Will Howard because he could be like Desmond Ridder or these other backup quarterbacks that we see just kind of thrust into roles here over someone, let's say like Savion Williams or these other people that we may not even see make NFL rosters once the draft goes. Oronde Gadsden is another special boy tight end. A lot of people like. I think he's a tweener and more of a Mike Gesicki than a lot of people would like to admit. Then we got Marcus Yards going off the board. He's who I was talking about earlier. I know he's from Delaware, and I know it's kind of like another Dylan Laube, but when you're this late, he's way more athletic than Dylan Laube, and he has a receiving upside. So he's someone that I would be willing to roll the dice on. Now we're getting towards the tail end of the draft. And again, another quarterback, Kyle McCord. And then our submission, we got the final pick to send us home. A whole roster here of Luther Burden, Caleb Johnson, Elic Ayomanor, Elijah Arroyo, Ty Felton, Kyle Monangai. I was a huge fan of Kyle Monangai, but he had a bad Raz. I do think he's one of these guys that could be like Damian Pierce here, where we may not see him get drafted early or on day 2, but day 3, he could fall on a team that needs a running back and just needs someone who can ball and run hard. Kyle Monangai is one of these guys who runs hard. Like Isaiah Pacheco still has value, even though he was a 7th round pick, just because he runs hard and teams like him and he's a very coachable player. I could see Kyle Monangai as someone else on here. That'll do it for this. This is how these drafts work. They're incredibly fast. The total draft time, guys, 10 minutes. And that's with people timing out. If you're in a full draft with folks who are engaged, you could get this time down even further. Really, if you have time to be on the toilet, you have time to make a draft. So, as always, I'm going to give you more content just like this. We'll have more podcasts. I think I'm going to have D-Bro. I'm going to have Thor Nystrom on. We're going to talk rookies further right before the draft next week. As always, I'm Jagger May. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.
So I thought I needed.